Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story Circle. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating young woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Hi, my name's Sarah Martinez-Murray, and I am an Australian but based in London. I have been diving into deep conversations, and I'm very passionate about having the conversation of what midlife looks like for the modern day woman. Speaking about sexual wellness and our pleasure, and it all came about from becoming a mother in my late 30s and really feeling disconnected from myself and wanting to reclaim, I guess, my power, my space, and having conversations. So if I rewind and go all the way back, I've pretty much worked my whole career with midlife women. I never realized it until the last couple of years that I've been lucky enough to share so much space with midlife women. I come from an early career in hair and beauty industry. So I was working in salon from about the age of 12, 13. And from there, I was just in and around midlife women, having conversations, hearing conversations, and had this beautiful opportunity to have really close and intimate relationships and conversations with women on a daily basis. As I sort of, moved through my career, I owned a couple of businesses, had a salon. Then I went and worked in a big corporate company. But again, at the time, I was still surrounded by mentors, leaders, and teams that were all midlife women. And then I moved into the wellness and fitness industry, and just by chance, and again, really grateful for the opportunity that I got to work really closely with clients that were, again, midlife women. So unbeknownst to me, but these women have become my mentors and a huge part of my story, and why I felt compelled to be really proactive about having these conversations. Because when it came to me getting to midlife, I was 35 when I fell pregnant for the first time with my daughter, who's now nearly 6. And I sort of popped out the other side. I didn't glow through pregnancy. I was really ill. And then I was diagnosed with a thyroid condition postpartum a few months after having her. And at the time, it had just been because I'd worked with in the wellness industry, and I had a lot of practitioners and mentors and other experts in the field that I was able to reach out and get some support and care around how I was feeling, where I was at. And there was a really early, there were signs that my body wasn't working properly. There was issues, and having people that you can reach out to is a massive, help and support, because so often women, we just push things down. we'll just get on with it. And there was a lot of part of my internal conversation, and the narrative was, you feel like this just because you've got a baby. You've got a new baby, and, sort of suck it up and get on with it. So I was grateful. I'm very grateful that I had some people around me go, oh, actually, that's not completely normal. Let's have a look and, get a little bit more into what's actually going on in your body. So once I did that, and I went and, I was diagnosed through, doctors and whatnot, I was like, okay, now we can start to sort of support and nourish that. And with that, what I found was there was so much shame and stigma associated to, how women's bodies, if they don't bounce back. And at the time, I remember thinking I felt so disconnected from my body and myself, because I'm no longer the woman that I was. I've had a baby, I've moved into a different chapter, and I actually didn't want to bounce back. I didn't want to be who I was prior. I wanted to enjoy and be really present in the chapter that I was going into. And it just started to sort of come over me that this is what so many of these midlife women that have led me through my career and life were talking about, these shifts and changes that come and evolve and can really impact our life. So I made the conscious decision to dig a little bit deeper and start unpacking and getting more support. And at the time, I even felt really apprehensive about, speaking up and saying, hey, this is how I'm feeling, but this is how I want to feel, and having, pleasure and sex and these conversations and how that looks as you get older. And so obviously with a thyroid condition, I had to obviously manage that, but there's a lot of physical side effects that come with it. There's obviously weight and, my skin was dry. I had issues with my hair falling out. There was a lot of physical sort of things that you could see, which is, the automatic thing for women to sort of latch onto, is to obviously seek help if there's something physical. But internally, there was a lot of things going on as well. And then, so libido completely gone. I had dryness, I had inflammation, all my intimate areas, it was something that was, if I hadn't have acknowledged it, I could have quite easily ignored it and just said, okay, well, this is what it's like to get older. But, women, our vitality and our wellness and our essence, comes from so much of our relationship with ourselves. So I started to really look at it and understand that I wanted to be having big conversations about it because I wanted to reconnect with myself. It was never about sex or, just my body or anything. It was about self-connection and embracing and celebrating the new chapter of motherhood and, being midlife. And then within a couple of years of the thyroid condition, which obviously was being managed and settled down, I was also then told I was in early perimenopause. And that's another whole conversation that I think is really important, because if you had have asked me, 20 years ago what midlife or menopause or perimenopause looked like, in my head, it was a woman that was my grandmother's age. It wasn't, 30s or 40s, active, thriving in your career and, early young families and whatnot. So I knew then that, again, the more of us that have these conversations and we talk about it and, really start to shift the conversation and normalize it. So I just became on a bit of a mission to speak about it as often as I can and, just connect with other women and normalize it so we can all feel like there is support and there is education, information and access, because that's one of the biggest things with it as well. A lot of, medical research for women, conversation I have quite often is that a lot of women feel very dismissed when they go and seek out help from the medical system. And, we know that only a small proportion of funds goes to female, research from when it comes to our hormones and sexual wellness and stuff for women. It's becoming a lot more popular now, but it's just one of those things in industries that needs a lot more normalization and support and care in it. Sorry, Gertrude, I can't hear
you. Thank you. You certainly were thrown in the deep end, Sarah, with all of these issues coming at you as a new young mom.
Yes.
Must have been quite a roller coaster ride trying to get to the bottom of what was going wrong for you.
Yes.
Now, you started an organization. Tell us about this organization and what really inspired you to launch it.
So after I had my baby and, I was trying to look for products and brands that I felt nourished and supported. And when you're talking about, sexual wellness for midlife women, again, the shame or the stigma associated to it. And when it came to, because I had dryness and irritation, and I knew that I needed support like I'd never needed from products. So lubricants and body oils, and I was, very conscious of ingredients. My body had changed so much. Mm-hmm. And when I started to look for lubricants, it was either something in a plastic tube that you would hide away. And again, that just sort of reinforces that conversation and that narrative of that it's shameful and we need to hide it. So I created a brand called Slyde Body, which is beautiful lubricants and body oils, but they're all very, very, designed with intention. So they're really beautiful little glass bottles that are designed to stay out. So you cable and, really reinforcing that your pleasure is important, that your body is worthy, and a reminder to take it when and how you choose, and just really connect with the body.
That's just amazing. So why do you believe sensual self-care is so important for women, especially in midlife?
I think, when you look at sex and intimacy, it's largely about the relationship with ourselves. Yeah. And when you get into midlife, and if, you look at the conversation around, burnout and the mental load and, the changes that, the women in the homes are now doing more so than ever. We're working, we're mothering, we're doing all of it, and it can be a lot, and it's very easy for us to become disconnected from ourselves. Yes. And we spend our whole lives in a lot of cultures. Our job is to nurture, our job is to care for and raise families and do all of that, and that is such a wonderful, beautiful part of our existence. Right. But there is also an element there that you are also important, and holistically your care for yourself in every way is that you can only you've got to fill your cup to be able to then nurture and be everything for everyone else, to your full extent. And vitality, when you look at pleasure, when you look at, even sex or, how we feel in our bodies, and acknowledging all of that, how important that is for our vitality and our life force. That's who we are as women. Like, it makes such a difference on how you interact and experience the world.
Mm-hmm. So how do we begin to normalize these conversations around sexual wellness?
It's a big one, and there is a lot more conversation about it now. And I think it's wonderful, platforms like this, the conversations that, and regular women, because I think, when I first started having these conversations, one of the things was I also felt that I was being told or sold to have more sex or to do more or to be this. And I was like, midlife women, like, we don't need more on our to-do list. Like, absolutely do not
No,
need. No, and it's not about better orgasms or more. It's just, it's not. It's, and I think the more we talk about it and the more we normalize it and the more we just sort of get rid of, it's not about more sex or more this, and you just sort of come home to yourself. And it has to start slow. And quite often it's about stripping things away, the noise and the excess, and where you can, sort of rid a little bit of those external pressures or expectations, like shifting. I know there was a book called Fair Play, which is all about the mental load, which is an incredible book. It's written by a mother, but she's also a psychologist. And she talks about this a lot, and being able to, put in boundaries and manage our lives better and take time for us to connect with selves. Again, it can be something so simple. It's not about, sex or doing more. It can literally be about getting rid of some of that stuff to allow time and space for you to connect with yourself.
So what are the biggest myths or misconceptions around midlife intimacy?
One of the big ones that I have a lot of conversation about is that libido is, or, desire and everything with intimacy and sex is that it's set, that it is an absolute. So the biggest thing with libido and, for women, it fluctuates just like everything in the female body. There's a cycle and there's a flow, and it can go up and down. So, there's a real myth around, men have got a higher libido and females have lower. And it's just not the case. It's not at all. And the biggest thing is, the more that women are connected with self, because there's so many other factors when it comes to sexual wellness, pleasure, desire for women, quite often, filling that cup, giving and receiving and feeling, supported, these little things like that can, add up and create desire or want from the sexual standpoint. So that's a really big one. And the other thing is that, when you get to a certain age, that your desire, pleasure, libido will go away. And that's also not the case. There is such a beautiful space in midlife and beyond for intimacy and connection for women. It's just different.
Yeah, it is just different. I love the way you've put that. And that's one thing that a lot of people forget.
Yes.
Oh, man. So as women are navigating this space, there's not a lot of support. There's not a lot of information out there that, makes it easy for women to find the support. Are you creating a community where women can come together in a safe space where they can share the issues they're going through without feeling judged?
Very much so. And that's the whole purpose. I think, when I first started the brand, it was for me to have a product that I felt was beautiful. But as soon as, I started having the conversations, I knew that it was about community. And women, honestly, it has blown me away. Like, I get quite emotional about the fact that when women come together and when we're given a space and an opportunity to connect, be heard, be seen, and just share, amazing things happen. There are a lot of women brands, experts now using their platforms and education to really get it, make it more accessible. And it is very important. And this is the biggest thing about all of this is community.
Yeah. Community is everything.
Everything.
So what does coming home to yourself mean to you?
So, it's such a big question, isn't it? I mean, when you're talking about self-care, it's been probably over-marketed and sort of, we think, a pedicure and a face mask, but that self-care on a really deep level is a very deep self-respect.
Right.
And when you're looking at that process of self-love, which, again, is probably a bit overused, but it is very important. And it starts from self-discipline. So discipline, normally you think rigid, have to, be, structured and all the rest of it. But it just can even be taking half an hour for yourself, for instance, like really carving out that, or 15 minutes or whatever it may be. So that self-discipline then, over time turns into self-respect. Self-respect over time turns into self-worth. That worthiness then turns into self-love. And for women, again, that all ties into our vitality and how we feel within ourselves and how then we can give outwardly. So, for all of our natural things that we quite often do, mother, nurture, care for, you need that self-respect, self-care, and self-nurture in any way that it needs to show up to be able to live fully. So that's what I mean when I'm saying come home. We're so busy out here that we forget about what we need right in this moment. And I just know, so many women, when they do go through this process or they have this bit of a rebirth through midlife, you see a lot of midlife women, they just start saying no. Like the amount of women in their 40s that just turn around and, there's a lot of, funny memes and reels and whatnot about it. But it's true. You start to go, I'm no longer doing that. I'm no longer willing to do that. I'm no longer, because we've gone through this phase of the younger years of learning and we know what we like. We sort of find who we are. Then we go into the next chapter. It might be birthing and babies and giving. And then we sort of like, as, we come home to ourselves, there's this really beautiful chapter because as you get older, you just become more of who you're meant to be.
Yeah, that is so true. Now, how do your products support both physical and emotional well-being? Tell us about the range of products that you offer women.
So our hero product is our Intimacy Elixir, which is just a water-based lubricant. In natural, and it doesn't have any extras in it. So when we created the product, we had, hundreds of samples go out to women, and we had different variations, some with flavor, some with enhancements, and there were so many different sort of, thoughts that we had around it. And 100% of our women that came back and said, I just want a water-based lubricant. I don't want anything extra. Some of it, the feedback was really important and really helpful because, it was, if there was, say, a flavor or anything like that, it then became about obligation for others. And I just found it fascinating. I was like, this is so important. So that's our hero product, is just a water-based lubricant. It's got some natural ingredients in there for really gentle support for arousal. But it's just this beautiful slip and is absorbed by the body. And then we have some body oils. We have an intimate cleanser. We have a little pleasure bullet. We have a whole heap of little bits and pieces that are just, again, the whole experience of it is beautiful packaging, beautiful ingredients, and all about, you feeling beautiful while using them. Your pleasure, really tapping into that, having them on your side table so they sit out as a reminder.
That is just amazing. Now, why is it so important to prioritize sensual self-care during perimenopause? And describe the experience to us, because a lot of women might not have through it already.
So the biggest thing, I think, the shift and changes that can happen through perimenopause, and it, we know that it can last a really long time. So, I think, there's a lot more education about it and now, but, it's not uncommon for women to sort of start going through changes and symptoms, from mid to late 30s, and it can obviously go all the way through their 40s. And, being able to, sensuality is about how you experience the world. So your senses being sight, touch, taste, all of that is your sensuality. So it's not sexual, it's about how you experience life.
Yes.
So if you're going through all of these really big changes, hormonally, fundamentally, family structures, you know who you are, like there's so much change, which is, again, it's all part of a cycle for a woman. We do it on a monthly cycle when we're, earlier years. And then as we get into perimenopause, being able to tap into your sensuality can also help you navigate through perimenopause.
Yes.
And it's just fact that when you know your body, when you're connected with self, and when you're caring for yourself, then those other factors, whether it be symptoms, stresses, whatever it may be, become more manageable, because your body the body doesn't mess about. It will tell you what is going on. Reality for majority of midlife women, it's not like we can't work. We can just stop and, go and live in, a little cottage somewhere with no stresses. Like the reality of modern day life is that we're busy. We've got big plans. We've got responsibilities. We're working. Like there's a lot. So it's really important that as we go through perimenopause and, these changes, because your body's tolerance for things completely change. And, I think it's like one in 6, I think, is the number that I've recently read, that 1 in 6 women will leave the workforce because of perimenopause or menopause, whether that be burnout, whether that be, the pressure from the position, or they don't feel supported, whatever the reason, you need to be able to support yourself in the best way possible to manage the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So it's not fluffy, and it's not just about, again, it's not sexy, but it's a very deep form of self-care to be able to navigate and thrive in your life.
So what advice would you give a woman who's feeling disconnected from her sensual self?
So first thing I'd say is find your communities and experts. So from the medical standpoint, like there's obviously, again, a lot more support now, but source out people that specialize in either hormones, perimenopause, menopause, the specialists, and don't take no for an answer. Nobody else is going to advocate for you unless you do it yourself. And that's the biggest thing. This is why this is so important, because we're normalizing getting support and getting help. And, if you need medical help or medication, whatever the case may be.
Yes.
So that would be my first thing, is source the experts, help, support, and advocate for yourself and educate yourself. There are so many books, there are so many authors, medical, practitioners that are sharing their education and information now freely, because that's the other side of it, that, the stats on, different, like socioeconomic, not everyone can access private medical, and it shouldn't be like that. Women going through this anywhere in the world should be able to have access to the best support available, so they can live and thrive.
Yeah, that is just amazing. Now, if you were to go back to the younger you, that young woman who found herself at a crossroads in life, not quite who she used to be, now a completely new woman, different sensations, feelings, etc. If you could go back and give that younger woman 3 nuggets of wisdom based on what life has taught you up until this point, what would those 3 nuggets of wisdom be?
Number one would be, don't ignore the signs. Your body, again, that saying of your body keeps score. I ignored a lot of things for a long time. So that would be number one. Like, listen to your body and trust your intuition and yourself and that knowing. Investing in your health is so important. And I guess the last bit would be knowing that I'm worthy. I think for a lot of young women, and I know for me as well, I for a long time didn't think that I was worthy, and working on that. So whether it be sourcing out, support, help, or whatever, we're all worthy. We're all worthy. And yeah, for all of the hardship and the tough times, it's really important, and you're really important.
It's absolutely beautiful. Last question, I want to teleport you into the future.
Okay.
We are going to go and meet the 90-year-old you, this wise woman who has led you up until this point. What legacy do you hope to leave through your business and your message? And what will you say to her when you finally meet her?
Oh, that's got so much emotion attached to it. My rule, or not my rule, but something that I've always lived by. I've had so many things through my life, which, so many women from a very young age. And I always, when I got into my 20s, completely off side note, but I was married and divorced in a first marriage by the time I was 24. And I remember feeling absolutely like I had to go to the ashes to sort of have a rebirth in a sense. But I made a decision then that I wanted to be 90 and look back at my life and know that I'd given it a go. And what I mean by that is, just being brave, showing up. I wanted to live honestly, and I wanted to live by truth, and I didn't want to just do the norm or what society expected or what I should be doing. I wanted to be brave enough to have the courage to lead by example, and support women. I think that's become and always been a really important area to speak with, hold space with, and share with other women. I love it. I feel very honored that, women have chosen me to share space and connect with. And then once I had my daughter, I knew that because I'd always done it very privately. I'd always done it, in conversations over a coffee or at the hair chair or in a fitness studio or whatnot. But I was like, it's up to me to have these conversations and be brave enough to be an advocate and speak up and be really, loud about women's health, our rights, our bodies, the different chapters, and feeling nurtured. So yeah, my 90-year-old self, it would be, we did that. And I'll look back on it with gratitude that I've had the opportunity and the privilege to be able to do it.
That is absolutely beautiful. Wow, Sarah, you've got your work cut out for you, for women worldwide. I have to tell you, there's a lot of women who are needing this psychological, emotional support, the information, the education about our bodies as well, because our mothers never really sat down and told us anything. You kind of fumble, you find yourself as a mother, as a wife, and things are changing and you have no idea where to start.
So true.
Thank you so much for this work.
Thank you. Thank you for having the conversation and having me here.
It's an absolute pleasure. And thank you to everybody who tuned in today. The Her Story Circle is not just a podcast. We are a social impact movement that brings you the stories and voices of women from all over the world. We share our stories to uplift you, to inspire you, to energize you, but most importantly, to empower you with knowledge and tools to take you from where you are now to where you're trying to go. So whether you're going through any of the experiences we've discussed today, or you know a friend who is, here is a platform that you can tap into, a community of women who are there to hold space for you, to make it easy. It does not have to be hard. I'll be back again tomorrow, everybody, with yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And Sarah, thanks again for the interview.
Thanks so much.
Bye for now, everybody. Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making her story.